guys, it's Quan, and I'm back again with another review. This time I'm reviewing Cloak and Daggers episode 9. Um, and I know that I am coming to you guys about a week late because episode 10 is airing tonight. But I tried to drop this video a couple of times and my flow just wasn't really working for me. And I don't want to do anything that's going to not work for me because I know it won't work for you. So I'm going to try to make this short and sweet because we have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. And the season finale is dropping tonight. So I know you guys are excited about it. I'm excited. Phone a friend, let them know, have them watch. We want to give this a big send off before we get to next season. So I'm going to talk about how it opens because I think that's important, and then I'm going to talk about the three main storylines that we have. So it starts with Evita's Aunt Chantel kind of casting a locator spell to source out what is the incoming issue, the incoming evil that's going to overtake the city, and she's led directly to the Roxxon Corporation. One of the things that I like is she says this little line later on to Evita where she says they're digging up all that makes this place special, and we have to remember that whatever the energy source is that they're actually digging up, it has the power to create supers like Tandy and Tyrone, but it also has the power to corrupt and create evil like the terrors we saw in the mind of Ivan Hess, and also the terrors that we've seen in the promo about to attack Mina, which also happened in this episode. So we know exactly what that clip came from. It came from this episode. So I think that's important. We next go into the classroom and we're hearing a voiceover of Father Delgado discussing the hero's journey to his students, which I love. I'm actually going to break that down for you guys a little bit later and talk about this whole entire season and where it fits on the timeline of the hero's journey, because this is something I'm quite familiar with as a teacher, as an English teacher, is the hero's journey. It's one of the most commonly used, well, not really a plot device as much as it is a plot template, or just a template that we see that mythology had kind of all fallen into the form of, and it's carried on throughout literature. Evita is in this class, and which was shocking to me, or not really shocking, but in the promo I kept thinking that it was Tyrone in the class listening to this, but it was Evita. And I have a hypothesis that much in the way in the comic that Father Delgado becomes kind of like a mentor for Tyrone and Tandy, and I think he still will be. I think before we can get that, we're not going to see these two individuals completely come together just yet, and so they're going to each need their own kind of eyes and ears on the ground. And I think that Mina, hopefully, we'll talk about this later, will be that for Tandy, and Evita will be that for Tyrone. And because they're both still so young, they have to obtain more knowledge. And so we see Evita kind of soaking in this knowledge of, oh, okay, connecting the dots, piecing it together, that Tyrone is this hero, that he's going to help save the city. And she's going to be the one who has to direct him on the right path. So let's talk about, from that point on, the three story times. I'm going to start with Tyrone and then go into Tandy and then go into Officer Bridget. No. Let's flip that. Let's talk about Officer Bridget first. So we see her in a bar. She's, of course, well, before that, we see her at the home of Officer Fuchs. They're investigating his death. They're sweeping the crime scene. She sees a murder weapon conveniently left underneath his couch. It seems like it's a piece of piping. And I believe that this is a piece of pipe that probably has Tyrone's fingerprints on it. It's probably left over from one of the encounters that Tyrone had with Connors. Probably his very first one, when he very first disappeared, when Connors was about to shoot him. I believe there's one point where he flings a pipe at him, and I think that that is what that piping is from. So from there, we next see her in a bar. They're having a memorial service. You hear a bunch of like Irish bagpipe music playing. She's drinking away, trying to bury her sorrow. In comes Detective Connors, who has been released with on bail, and he toasts to Officer Fuchs, which we know is not only a cover, but it's a slap in the face, because he's likely, maybe not the person who directly killed him, but certainly the person that ordered the hit on him. And Bridget does not take that well. She grabs a bat or a baton that's on the wall, like one of the earlier batons of maybe like one of the earlier police forces in New Orleans. She grabs it off the wall and proceeds to get ready to beat him with it. But he gains the upper hand because he is certainly stronger than she is, and begins to beat her. This is probably the most horrific part of the show for me this episode. Like, I literally was like screaming at my TV, like, somebody get him. Like, are y'all sitting here watching this man beat this woman? Like this grown, grown a man beating this woman down, like hitting her in the face, kicking her, breaking some ribs. Like I was just so horrified by it. She's certainly bruised up. She goes back to her car, and over the intercom, we hear that there is a possible suspect in the killing of Officer Fuchs, and so she's getting ready to race over or go to where that is. All right, so now let's go to Tyrone and Tandy. So in Tyrone's storyline, the Johnsons are first shown at the police station, and they're learning that Connors has confessed to killing Billy, learning that Tyrone was telling the truth all this time, and they seem extremely stoic about it. They seem extremely hopeless about it. They don't seem like they're very hopeful that anything will come to fruition because they live in America, and in people will say, if I say black America, that's divisive, but in the reality of America, that a lot of black people feel that they know their engagement with the justice system. Just because this man has a confession doesn't mean he'll be found guilty, doesn't mean that he will obtain any time or ever see the inside of a prison. And so I don't think they seem very hopeful about it. Tyrone doesn't take this well. He begins acting out at school, getting into fights with people, and eventually he's taken to Father Delgado's for punishment and discipline, in which case he gets into a fight with Father Delgado because he doesn't know what to do with that anger, which is one of the things that Father Delgado has been talking about all this time, is you not being able to manage your anger. They get into an altercation, and he slips into his fears and sees that Father Delgado not only is an alcoholic and has an alcohol addiction, but that he actually was in an accident where he possibly hit and killed a child. While he is in Father Delgado's mind, a doorway opens, and we know that the doorways often lead to the minds of someone's hidden fears. But it's not Father Delgado's. He actually enters into Tandy's mind and witnesses her about to make a horrific mistake. Back at school, he encounters Evita, who offers to help him, says that she can help him. Doesn't come right out and say, I have magical powers or abilities, but she's trying to kind of give him a heads up that she does have abilities, that she knows what he is, and that she really can help him. Tandy shows up and they have an encounter, and basically Tandy, is like frustrated that he's in her mind, telling him to stay out of her head, and he advises her that she needs to go and uncover the truth by going to her mother, telling her mother what's going on, even though he's not really talking to his parents either. She kind of throws it back at him, and so the next time we see him, he actually is back at his house talking to his mom and telling his mom, why didn't you believe me all these years? And she's like, why don't you do anything now? When she finally answers him, she gives him two answers. The first answer is, even if I had believed you then, what could I have done with that without any evidence? Secondly, if there was an officer who kills your brother and covered it up, what was to stop him from killing a child who people started to listen to? And then I'd have lost both of my children, which we saw from episode 1 is her biggest fear, any mother's biggest fear. So she confesses that is the reason why. It wasn't so much that they didn't believe him, it's that they could not believe him. He begins to say, well, Mom, what is all this for? You say, you worry about me, that something could happen to me even if I do everything perfectly. So why should I try to do everything perfectly? Why shouldn't I just live my life and stand up for what's right? And, this is him kind of responding to that voiceover from Father Delgado at the beginning of the episode, which is that question of, am I going to stand up and rise up and be a hero? Okay, I'm going to stop there to talk about Tandy. So Tandy, we see, is back to her old tricks. At the beginning of the episode, she's dressed to the nine with a rich guy, seems to be getting ready to steal from him. There is a cute little Easter egg of Stan Lee showing up in the show. We know that Stan Lee doesn't actually make any physical appearances in any of the TV shows really that are based on Marvel works, but they do of course give him a cameo in the form of like an Andy Warhol pop art style painting that's on the wall in this person's house, which is really, really cute. I can see tons of fans like wanting to go out and get this, like and somebody's gonna make some money off of that, definitely. So I thought that that was really cute. But she's actually not stealing stuff. She's actually found a way to go into people's minds and not only see their hopes, but to steal their hopes. And so she does this um, to this wealthy guy. Then she proceeds to get invited to brunch with Mina and Ivan. She sees Ivan reunited with Mina. They're living their best life. They're reunited and it feels so good. And she is sipping a whole lot of haterade. Like, you finally got your dad back. You have the life that I want. I'm hating on you. And so she ends up doing it to Mina. And Mina actually can feel, we see in Mina that actually it leaves them feeling like she can feel the hope draining from her body, which your hope is in one sense your own life force. It's what keeps you going, much like whatever the energy is, the energy or the hope is, it's underground in New Orleans that, you know, Chantel was talking about, or Chantel was talking about earlier. And so Mina feels it. She ends up killing a fly. Her hope was like of making the world a better place and caring for the animals and being Snow White with the animals and the birds singing and all those different things, and now that's gone from her. So then we see that she seems shaken by this. She seems to want to go on a better path, and so she ends up going to get Liam, poor Liam, who's been stuck in jail all this time, these past 6 episodes. Goes to get him out of jail, apologizes to him, goes into his mind, sees the same vision again. She tells him the story of wanting to make amends and wanting to um, be in a real relationship with him, reveal her truth to him. But she ends up stealing his hope of wanting to marry her, wanting that better life. And that was the point in which Tyrone had entered into her mind, sees her stealing his hope. The church begins to crumble, and she exits his mind, but not before he realizes it's enough. I don't think it's enough to completely steal all of his hope. At least we weren't shown that, in my opinion, but it was enough to damage it to where he's able to do something wrong to her, which is eventually go in and steal all the money that she'd gotten from Peter Scarborough. So at that point, of course, we end up before she finds out that he had stolen her money. That's when she goes to encounter Tyrone at the school. She meets Evita for the first time, who confronts her like, "Who are you, chick? This is my man. Who are you? You don't seem like you're a good type for him," or whatever. It goes into Evita's mind, sees her as a doctor, helping people, and gets ready to try and steal her hope from her. And Evita's voodoo magic power rears its head, and she's able to turn her head. It reminds me of a scene out of The Craft. I don't know if you guys remember that movie from like the 90s with the four witches and they had their little coven, but how they could cast like a little vision or whatever, but like the person with the power could break it. It's like she broke out of the vision. It's like, trick, what are you doing? And snaps her out of it. That was just one of my favorite like laugh out loud moments. I hollered of the episode. So then that's when Tandy goes back to the church, sees that Liam has stolen her money. At that point, she realizes that she really has been on this downward spiral. She decides to go home to talk to her mom. But at that point, she gets home, no one's there. She's calling out, she hears something. Who is it other than our favorite water gal working for Roxanne, the Roxanne assassin, who has her mom captive and is threatening to kill her if she doesn't come out. Of course, we know she doesn't have the money, but we gotta see if she's gonna be able to get control of herself in order to stop this person from killing her mom. Now, cutting back to Tyrone, that's how we're left with Tandy. Cutting back to Tyrone, as Tyrone and his mom are in the kitchen talking, the sirens go off, the cops appear, we hear that they were looking for Tyrone in the killing of Officer Fuchs, so we know that item that was placed in the house did have his fingerprints on it. They do have him as a suspect, and so he has to run, and he leaves behind the cloak, and doesn't get the cloak and jumps out the window, and so we're left with all of our heroes in limbo of what's going to happen in this next episode. So it was a great episode. Again, they picked up the pacing a whole lot more. I definitely think that some of the things in some of the chat rooms and the different like fan signs that I'm a part of with Cloak and Dagger have been complaining about like they're not both runaways, and there was a whole runaway storyline and things like that. It's like, well, no, like this is going to be Tyrone on the run because he can't go home. And I certainly think that they're showing the rift between him and his parents in such a way. that he will be on his own for a while in order to protect him. But something that the character or the actor Aubrey Joseph has said is that it's become important maybe in those writers' rooms and in those rooms that they've been talking to portray a strong black family. So I don't think we'll see them on the streets for long. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we see them take in Tandy, but I think it will be some time, and I think that certainly if he does leave, it will be for their safety, not because they've cast him out or anything along those lines, because again, he is his mother's world. It's not like a Tandy and her mom kind of situation. So let me know down below in the comments what you thought about this episode. I know we're a week late, but it's tonight, and so let me know your predictions for tonight. My prediction for tonight, if you saw the promo for season 2, I'm not going to drop that because I know what that means. I don't know if you know what that means, but so I predict that we'll see the beginning presence of that. I don't think we'll see Tyrone and Tandy come back together to stop Roxanne. Of course, we've seen that from the promo, the San Diego promo for these 2 episodes. I think that we will see Tyrone on the run from the police. I think we will see Evita see Tyrone exercise his power. Perhaps she will be able to tell him what she knows. I think we'll see Mina become a confidant, and maybe we'll even see Tandy work out a way to give the person their hope back. I hope that we see Tyrone's power grow a little bit more, because so far we've seen the most growth of power come from Tandy and not Tyrone. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for this episode. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you're hoping for tonight, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, toodles!